What up? It's Lou from Lou Know It. A little bit of guerrilla content. I'm at work. I'm gonna try and get in a review of The Shape of Water, which won Best Picture and Best Director. Fourth time in 5 years, a Mexican director has won Best Director. Basically, it was one of two of my favorite films this year. Movies, whatever you want to call them. That and Three Billboards. This movie was, in my opinion, close to being a masterpiece. The acting was top-notch. The writing by him was top-notch. A little story on Del Toro. He started out, making smaller stuff in Mexico. He started off making smaller stuff in Mexico, like Devil's Backbone. Pan's Labyrinth was bigger. That blew up in the U.S. And then he did, the Hollywood run, which was, Hellboy 1 and 2, Pacific Rim, big budget. I thought Hellboy 1 and 2 were good, but they weren't, they had elements of his style, but they weren't, his... The way that people like Woody Allen and Spike Lee are when they make a movie, it's like their stamp is on it. With Del Toro, there were elements of who he was as a director, but he didn't have his stamp on on those movies. This one is purely a Del Toro movie. He's been apparently trying to make it for 15 years, something like that, or at least maybe not trying, but he, the idea came to him, and he's been writing it. And it's been in some stage of production, be it, drafts or writing or whatever it is for 15 years. It's clearly, his work, and basically it's just an amazing movie. It's a weird concept. It's basically a love story between a fish creature that's being held in a government lab, and one of the women that chooses to clean up. She chooses, but that's her job. To clean up there. Who's, I think, Sally? I'm getting the name wrong. Sally Hawkins. She's the mother from Paddington. British actress, very good, and basically, and then she has a sort of quote unquote sassy black friend who's another name I'm forgetting, but who's been in Octavia, she was in The Help, and she always kind of plays that sassy black woman, and I thought that's who she was, and I saw interviews with her, and I was like, oh, she's just a mad good actress, and Hollywood is racist, and they always cast her as that, but she's actually not, doesn't come across that way at all. And the main lead, being English, did an amazing job. She was mute, so she didn't have to talk, but she did a great job acting. Bottom line, she was top-notch acting. And she's, and to believe the love story, a big part of it is that there's going to be some weird cuts in the dialogue here, but basically a big part of this is that the creature can't understand English, and she's mute. So in a way, he sees her as no different than the rest of the people, around her, which draws her to him, which is intelligent, romantic devices to get people together. It's just good writing, and it's brought about by great acting. So that said, the villain, who I forget his name also, but he played Zod in Superman. He was from Boardwalk Empire, and he's another great guy who I only saw as villains and thought he must be this hardcore dude, and saw interviews with him, and he's a stage actor. and soft-spoken and very different from the villains he portrays, which credits his acting ability. So basically, everybody in this is great actors. The guy who plays it's pretty much all practical effects, which is cool. I love that when they're well done, as opposed to computer effects. And the suit that the sea creature wears, people have complained it's similar to Abe Sapien of Hellboy. It is similar to Abe Sapiens of Hellboy, but it took them like 2 years to make, and there's a lot of detail in it. And it's interesting. It's the same guy who actually played both Abe Sapien and the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth, and the Fawn from Pan's Labyrinth. He basically does all of Del Toro's creature work, and he's great at sort of capturing these creepy, jerky kind of movements, and he's also very thin, so it gives them a lot to like work with in terms of building around that in terms of the costume. He was great in it. Essentially, for me, I saw the movie 3 times. I believe it. I believe her motivation. I believe his motivation. I believe the villain's motivation. So, like I said, the dialogue is going to be jilted. I think I was talking about how great the acting was all around. The writing is, top notch. Which leads me to the directing in terms of the visual style. I mean, the movie is true artistry. Like, almost every frame could be a painting, and that's something that a term I got, I think, from my mom. But really, like, almost every frame could be like a painting. It's beautifully shot. The color tone is chosen perfectly. I mean, it's just really, it's just perfect in its visual. So for that alone, it's worth seeing these beautiful, the beautiful shots within this facility. It's just very well done. He reminds me in certain ways of Fincher, who's my possibly favorite director. I mean, Spielberg I love because Spielberg makes these great adventure movies, and he puts a lot of elements in there. But like in terms of like composing a frame, people like Scorsese and Fincher and Del Toro come to mind. And Scorsese, I love Scorsese. He makes amazing movies. It's less artistic in the sense that he's trying to capture something more real, I think. And then Fincher's somewhere in the middle where he's trying to capture something very real, but it's to such a finite degree that it becomes sort of an artistic representation. And then Del Toro, it's like full on a fairy tale. It's like a beautifully painted fairy tale. It's a fairy tale for adults, and there is some violence in it, and there is some disturbing themes in it, and there is some sex in it. But it is an amazing movie. It deserved Best Picture, it deserved Best Director, and deserved Best Screenplay, I think, and possibly Best Actress as well. So, it was just an all-around great movie, and I highly recommend it. And like I said, I mean, the writing, the set design, the acting, the cinematography, the shot composition, the color palette, all were just beautifully done. And I highly recommend Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro. See it, support it. Make sure that this guy keeps getting a chance to make these movies. He doesn't need a huge production budget, but he needs enough to be able to make them.